Welcome to Libra season. We are now entering in through the gateways that are fully associated with the pure energy of Libra. And Libra is an air element. It's going to bring us through the seventh house of partnerships, commitments, and it is really about bringing everything into balance. The masculine side, the yang energy, the feminine side, the yin energy. And when you come into the balance and the harmony of you, you are giving rise to the divine child within. So this also starts us on a very intimate journey about doing your own inner child healing and really taking a look at some of those ancestral patterns in order to extract the wisdom and let go of the energies that may be forming the self-sabotages, the roadblocks, presenting themselves as fear, and learning to really harness the full extent of the gifts within the splenic center. We are purely in the splenic center for the teachings of Libra season. And we're really going to dive in to talk about what that is as we move through this energy. We're also in the ruling planet of Venus. So Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, comfort, looking at our relationships, looking at our feminine nature and our morals, the morals and our values, the higher principles that each and every one of us decide for ourselves. It's not the ones that are adapted by society. And we're also going to be looking at the archetype here of the diplomat. So learning to question yourself. So let's take a look at the inner alchemy here for Libra season. And we are entering in through gate number 18 today, which is all about improving. And you're going to see that every single one of these gates within Libra season are falling in the splenic center. So we are looking at this center here within your human design body graph. And there is a very symbolic relationship to our splenic center and the shadows we're going to be going through, in this case of judgment, how we've been trained to look and find our faults, moving into the gift of integrity, and reaching for the highest light aspect here, which is all about divine perfection. So let us jump right in. And, we're starting right off the bat in gate 18, the gate of improving, by looking at the Judgment card in the tarot. And it's really interesting how every single one of these 64 gates, or if you're following along with the gene keys, the 64 gene keys, they all represent a certain archetype. And an archetype is a character role that we play. Well, in gate 18, it reflects the judge and how we are trained to judge the world around us, how we tend to judge ourselves, understanding that there are laws of the universe that keep all things in balance. So we go through what is known as karma, and we're really here to help move through and release the karma on behalf of the collective. A lot of people think that karma is personal in nature, that you are making up for things that you've done in the past, when in reality, your soul has a council. And before incarnating into the world, you decide with your spiritual team, with your council, the lessons that you want to come and learn to help empower and grow the soul. The soul is also on a journey of its own evolution. So you came into the world with certain themes in order to help you to maximize the soul's potential. And one of the things that a lot of people have come into the world to really look at and move through within their own karma relationship is our tendency to judge. And our tendency to judge the self that keeps us very small and suppressed, the tendency to judge other people, which then falls into the blame, the shame, the guilt, and the wound of separation. And it's only in learning how to forgive ourselves and to really acknowledge that we're here to learn and grow. And that means that humans are perfectly imperfect. We're going to make mistakes, and it's the grace of learning from those mistakes that then helps support a beautiful, healthy future. So, in the teachings of the I Ching, which is known as the Book of Change, Gate 18 improving is explained as dispassionately reevaluating unbalanced systems. Interactions, practices, and procedures aims humanity to grow towards a flourish future. Having the capacity to judge in the sense of acting from the heart and knowing when systems are no longer working, when educational tools are not supporting the children, when family dynamics, relationships aren't in balance or they aren't supporting a holistic view for that divine child, that's when we really start to rise up. And dispassionately means taking a higher viewpoint to really assess the situation and to have those honest conversations. And that does take a level of vulnerability because you are becoming responsible to change what is yours to change and learning to make peace with what is not yours to change. So that is all about improving the self. And as we improve the self, we help to improve the collective. All of our vibrational energies really do matter. This is also part of the Ring of Matter. So in the last class, we talked about gate number 46, the love of the body, the transition from Virgo season into Libra season, and the very start of this Ring of Matter. So you are on the journey now with the 18th key, continuing through these teachings from the Book of the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. And as a recap to that, it states that the Ring of Matter and its 4 specific gene keys program the human developmental process of incarnation from the point of conception to the age of 21. It is through this codon ring that spirit first penetrates into the world of matter and releases its true radiance. Throughout each of these cycles, the codon ring of matter and its associated gene keys play a crucial role through continued testing of the outer environment. Essentially, these gene keys are looking for constant biofeedback so that the child can orient itself in the world in a healthy manner. The 3 phases, the physical, the emotional, and mental, are governed by the 46th, the 48th, and the 18th gene keys, respectively. Whereas the 57th gene key lays down even deeper seeds of these 3 phases through the 3 trimesters during gestation. Thus, this codon ring is of huge importance at the developmental level as it governs the very infant structure of our physical, emotional, and mental health. So in the last class, you learned about the role of the physical body, the first 7-year period of life from ages 0 to 7. As we're stepping into gate 18 now, the teachings of improving, we are in the mental, which is all about our aura, our perception of the world around us. That is really solidified between the ages of 14 to 21. So this is the last of the stages of the cycles of 7 that are within our incarnation, really embodying the soul into being present here on earth and helping to move it towards the work that it is here to do. So let's jump right into the very specific teachings of gate number 18, improving. Down in that splenic center, so you're going to want to take a look at your personal human design chart. And 53% of you will be defined, meaning that is colored in. When your splenic center is colored in, you have consistent energy that is supporting your health and well-being. You have consistent energy that is operating through your body and alerting your senses. And it's really important to become aware of the splenic nature, which is very fast, but it's also very quiet. It is deep body consciousness. So this is the area where our greatest intuition resides, but it's also where we hold our ancestral fears. So we're learning to bring those fears to the surface in order to heal through them and release what is no longer serving you. And the way to do that is to learn more and more about yourself and build the relationship with your human and your higher self so that you feel more confident in your intuition, in that gentle voice within, and you empower yourself to intuitively know what is right for you. So this is a self-actualization journey. Nobody else can tell you what to do because it'll always be their opinion over your life. And it's really important that we acknowledge for ourselves how many times we feel that we know what is best for somebody else. And that is kind of really opening up the gateway here to the gate of improving, later into the channel of judgment, so that we can really start to hold the space for others to do their own personal journey and bring all the energy back into self, the health and the well-being, to improve what is needing to be improved within ourselves. Now, if you are undefined, that's 47% of you, this is going to appear white on your chart. And what that means is you are feeling the fears of others, the health and the well-being of others at 200%. So it's very easy sometimes to identify with somebody else's fear, somebody else's state of health, and to feel that it is you. So in learning to separate what is yours from what it is you are picking up from others, again, really supports you in making decisions that are correct for you. And it also puts you in a position of really intuitively knowing how to best support the other. So when you are feeling someone else's fears at 200%, I mean, that can feel very overwhelming. But if you've done the inner work for yourself and you recognize it doesn't belong to you, you can allow the fear to talk to you, to communicate with you, to really get a sense of what the other person is requiring within the relationship in order for more transparency, more trust, more of a holistic viewpoint to come in. And sometimes it's not that we're meant to have a relationship with the other, but we're here to learn the power of a specific fear and how that then flows into the decisions we make, the actions that we take, and those scared pieces of self, the fight, the flight, the fear, or the freeze response that keeps us stuck in life. So there's some powerful teachings, and you came in with the absolute perfect design for you to support what it is that your soul came here to learn. So diving deeper into this now, it is all about the awareness of patterns that need to be corrected or not. So you're going to be aware of patterns in your own behavior, how fear shows up for you, how self-sabotages show up for you, and you're going to be aware of patterns within others. Again, as a teaching tool, because if you can see it in somebody else, it also exists in you. So they become great areas, again, of self-actualization. There's also a natural fear in here, and it's the fear of being judged by others or too much self-judgment. And that also stems from a fear of authority. So we're really going to lean into these teachings today about learning to question ourselves of how much we tend to judge others or the world around us, how much your mind judges you, how you fear about authority, right? So who do you put on a pedestal above you? And how does that make you feel in terms of your own empowerment or disempowerment? And we want to just start getting really curious because this does develop patterns of behavior. And it's really about reflecting on how you might have been judged, where you might have been judged, where did that critical voice come in? When did you start looking for flaws? How did you learn to start looking for flaws? And when we look out into the world and we recognize how so many are hiding behind a mask, a pretense because of this fear of judgment, perhaps you are coming in the door feeling courageous enough to release your own mask so that you can let your true self step forward and help other people also come into your presence by letting go of their own masks. And what a beautiful tool to help improve relationships when we are releasing those parts of us that are so afraid of what somebody else thinks and instead has made peace within the self of, I am who I am. So there is intuitive awareness and there is deep guidance in Gate 18 to work on what has been spoiled. So it is ultimately designed to undo those damaging patterns from childhood and to become whole again. So in other words, it is soul reclamation. It's claiming back the pieces of you that were never broken. They may have been a problem for somebody else because of whatever they were going through, but there was never anything wrong of that aspect of you as a child who knew exactly who you were. And looking at how society conditions us, how our social groups condition us, school systems condition us, and learning to repair that damage, meaning the self-accepting the judgment of others, the criticism of others, and knowing that you are perfectly imperfect, that you are not broken. So there is big, powerful energy in here that is really helping us to become aware of whether you have accepted someone else's way of doing something and if that has disempowered you. And whenever it disempowers you, because this is the center of our health and well-being, the physical body feels it. Your immunity system feels it. So if you have a tendency to get sick a lot, it's really paying attention to the thoughts that are circulating in your body. Are you limiting your life force energy because you're always trying to measure up to what you believe somebody else wants? And that becomes the impossible task. Because if you look at it in the world of shadow and energy, if somebody is discontent with you, that is their judgment, their shadow, their projection. So if you're always trying to fix yourself to be good enough for somebody else's shadow, it's never gonna work because that shadow is actually a reflection of themselves. So a lot of times we may be raised by a parent who was judged themselves. So they're always trying to be enough, and there can come a lot of anger and a lot of bitterness with that. It is literally chasing a ghost that does not exist. It is impossible to know what somebody is creating in their mind. It changes from moment to moment based on our own dissatisfaction. So when you start to really become aware that these projections of anger, dissatisfaction, criticism, judgment, that they are hurts, deep wounding patterns that are being passed down generation after generation after generation, and reflecting pieces of self within that are ready to be healed within yourself. So, for example, if someone's always criticizing you for not being smart enough, that is actually your mere reflection to self-actualize and talk to your deeper intuition who just knows things. And we went through a period of time, the dark ages, where a lot of intuitives, especially women, were burnt at the stake and prosecuted for just knowing. Because it could not be proved, because it didn't come from the intellect of the mind, but it came from the wisdom of the cells, the DNA, it became a fear story. It became a fear story of those who did not trust in their own ability to tune in to their deep intuition. So we really take a look at some of these criticisms and we start to bring it way, way back to the source of origin. And when we start to recognize that, this is a deep-seated pattern in the ancestral line. And you're coming into this course, you're coming into getting to know about yourself because something in your body is going, this pattern has to end. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of being the projection of somebody else's anger. I'm overwhelmed by my sensitivities. I'm tired of being so self-critical. So you're already in the energy of improving. You're already in the awareness of changing your mind talk, your body language, to start reclaim the pieces of your soul back by not accepting someone else's bad behavior, but also meeting that with forgiveness, understanding, and love, knowing that that's their own wounded child that is lashing out. Well, we don't want fear to meet fear and anger to meet anger and hate to meet hate and judgment to meet judgment. That just keeps feeding that energy. We are coming to the point of understanding that we have the free will choice to respond or to not respond. And it's the old saying of, well, there's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And as long as we keep that pattern, that belief system going, that hurt and suppression will continue. But as long as we really take a look at that and say, the universe has natural governing laws. And if we understand that all things play out in the universe, whatever we are putting out, we will receive. Therefore, there is a self-responsibility in how you show up. You can decide for yourself in that free will choice that it's no longer an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but the pattern is going to stop with you. You're not going to accept somebody projecting hurt onto you, but you're not going to project it back. You're going to allow it to come in. You're going to accept its teachings. You're going to come back with the improvement of yourself of, no, that is not who I am. That is your hurt story. That is your fears. And you're going to meet it with love. You're going to literally turn the other cheek. You're not going to engage in that behavioral pattern. And already that is improving. That creates an interception to the narrative of that story when somebody is in your life and they always know how to push your buttons and they're looking to pick a fight. And it no longer phases you. You're no longer reactive to that. Imagine how that starts to change the dynamics. So you are designed to review the old ways. You're designed to look at traditions. And it's all about improvement for yourself and improvement for society. And we really are hardwired through this gate to know when we are being too hard on ourselves, we're blaming ourselves, and it's always about something in the past, right? It could be going back to childhood and blaming yourself for not knowing, for not understanding, for making that choice, for having that action, whatever it is. And it's really calling in the grace again to see that version of yourself, that age of yourself, to see what else was going on in that energy and meet that version of yourself with love. Yes, maybe it made a poor mistake, but does it need to keep paying the price for that? Has it not suffered enough? So this really is the grace of cleaning up the past, extracting the wisdom from the past, intercepting deep ancestral patterns, and learning to take the child of you by the hand and rise it up in the highest light aspect. And we're going to dive deep into what those are when we get to the teachings of the Gene Keys. This is also about accepting our weaknesses instead of blaming ourselves for them. So again, we're taught to not be weak, and we are often laughed at and ridiculed for the things that we so-called don't do right. But you have strengths. You have natural intuitive strengths that are your gifts to the world. And we're not meant to do everything because we're meant to come together. So your weaknesses, there's somebody out there who that's their strengths. And your strengths will match somebody else's weaknesses. When we learn to accept that, you know what, I'm not very strong in this area, or I'm not even interested in this area, then you pour all your time and energy into the things that you do really well. They bring you the satisfaction, they bring you the joy, and you make peace with the weaknesses by saying, you know what, I need some help in this area. Or I want to outsource this area. I want to bring somebody in who does do that well. And it's not about judging and criticizing yourself for not getting it or not knowing it. It's understanding that you're designed to funnel your energy towards what it is that you do well. And if you're interested in learning other things to gain skills and gain strength, you will intuitively know it. You're also going to intuitively know if you just don't want to do something. You're not interested in learning that, being that, having to put the energy towards that. And how beautiful would it be if that was taken off your plate by trading resources, by bartering some of your skills for somebody else's skills and finding that balance in the middle. So as we journey now through this energy, here's a question for self-reflection. Do you tend to blame yourself for everything that appears to go wrong in your life? And another part of that question would also be, is there a relationship in your life where they tend to blame you for everything that has gone wrong in their life? And the reason for this is we want to come to an understanding as to whether this gate of improving is at a low vibration energy, a shadow energy for yourself because you're blaming yourself, or if you have been the receiver of somebody else's low vibrating energy who is learning the power of this gate, and they tend to project everything onto you. So there's many ways that this gate, these energies can play out. And it's first and foremost going to be a journey of empowering yourself to look at the mindset and the story you continue to tell yourself, and whether that is disempowering or are you improving your self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth by clearing out those damaging patterns from childhood.